Hey everybody, and welcome to the last sort of leg or section of our tutorial series on mastering. Now, just to get started, mastering is basically a finalized process that a song or an album or whatever undergoes after it has been mixed. All the tracks recorded, mixed, and basically what it's doing is taking these raw tracks and basically preparing them for like a listening environment, if you will. So what we're basically working with is a song that's, we're just done with. We've recorded all of the parts here that you can see. The guitar solo is done, rhythm guitars are done, whatever. Everything's programmed in, and all we really want to do now is just make the overall sound of this, this song very nice and at the appropriate volume. If you've been mixing, properly, you're not clipping anywhere, but the volume may not be too loud. So, basically, we're going to be working with that. I said it in the last video, and I'll say it again. You can't polish a turd. If your mix isn't good, if your playing wasn't your best, then you're not going to magically make everything sound better by mastering. It's only going to, polish off something that hopefully is really nice. So keep that in mind. I master a lot of people's covers now and then, as well as on like the Operation 1-Up album and Multiplayer. And usually I get these fantastically recorded songs and mixed well, and they're performed well. So I'm really not doing a lot of work there. Basically, we're bringing the volumes up and compressing things that just got way too loud. So as we go through this tutorial, you should really only be doing this when you think that your song is like, it could almost not get any better sounding. It just needs to be, louder. If you start thinking that your mix is at a really, really finalized point, then you're definitely ready to solidify the mastering process. I also want to stress that you don't need to have any paid software to really master if you're doing it at the amateur level that even I'm doing. I have the Isotope Ozone Suite, and I highly recommend it, but you basically just need to have an equalizer, a multiband compressor, and a limiter. So what we're going to basically do is go to our master track, and I already added a couple loaded up, but we're going to start, and we're going to look at EQ first in the mastering chain, if you will. A lot of the information I've gotten about mastering comes in addition to friends and tutorials like Family Jewel 7X's tutorial is just kind of like from audiotoots.com and different places here and there, and basically you have like a chain of effects in anything, but the master chain of effects will affect all of your tracks that are fed into it. So all of these buses basically are what we're working with now. And, if we look at the song as we play it, we're going to see the frequency of the whole song. And basically we want to take away the noise from the top again, the mud from the very bottom, and then, just cut away a little by little, and I'll try my best to explain what I'm doing here. Low pass filter. We're gonna get a high pass filter. We're gonna wait for the bass to come in, maybe somewhere a little. An important thing is to also be listening to all of this stuff at a very appropriately lower level. You want to hear it at a standard listening level and quieter so that you're not really getting distracted by how intensely loud it is. So now that we have that, I'm going to add a little bit of a boost where the kick and bass is, just so that we can have the rumbling. And remember, we're trying to avoid clipping. If you think that your song is too loud, just select all of your main buses or tracks or whatever, and then just drop the volume down a little. That way they're all uniformly the same mix. They're just quieter. Of course, I don't have that situation because I made sure I wasn't clipping as we recorded. Next, I'm going to try to cut away a little bit of the mids again. Not too much, but we want to have things a little tight. And now I'm just gonna hunt some of the frequencies I don't like, maybe some of the crashes, just so that we have a smooth listening experience. What I'm doing here is trying to restore some of the other mids so that we don't lose too much of the body of the song in the lower mid area. Okay, so that's not too bad. I might re-listen again because I feel like I took away a lot more than I needed to. Now that we're good with that, I'm going to open up the isotope suite. The reason why I use Pro Q is because I think it's a much better equalization. But we're going to look at Isotope Ozone 5's suite now. So the first thing we're going to look at is the compressor. And what we need to do is set these bands in reasonable different kind of bundles of frequencies. And that way we can organize what we're compressing more harsher or less. So let's start with the bass. If you click solo, you can hear like the integrity of our bass. And basically what we're trying to do here is compress each section differently, right? So I'm gonna keep the limiter maybe at like 5, and I'm gonna keep and that's the limiters ratio. So what we're looking at basically is just like a regular compressor, as I explained before. The volume's hitting around here, and when it hits this line specifically, it's being limited, or a computer's telling it to stay quieter. And that's also affecting the quality of the sound. So you want it to be lighter depending on which band we're working on. Now the bass, we can't really hear too much of a problem if we recreate it. So the gate is going to be when we start even letting in volume to be compressed. So I'm going to leave that at nothing. The compressor I'm going to keep at 1.2 because we do want to keep the volume controlled. And the ratio, once it hits, we'll leave it around like 5 or 5.1. And when we unsolo it, so you can kind of hear it. We lost a lot of bass. So you're going to want to play around with how you're multiband compressing so that you don't lose the quality of the song. So now I've kind of created the lower mid area that we're going to be compressing here. And I'm going to be much more careful about how I compress it so we don't, kill all the vibe. So I'm gonna set it to 1.1. So after it reaches this middle node, it's going to start compressing, and once it hits here, it's gonna get a little harsher. So I'm gonna keep this actually at 3. Try to be like generous and then work my way. So that sounds pretty alright. Of course, it's going to sound compressed, and since it's metal, you know, we're allowing some of that. What I'm going to do with the treble is go even lighter. So that's sounding pretty okay. Again, you want to listen to it off and on, make sure you didn't lose anything. Now this is basically the trebles, and you're not going to hear too much of this, so I personally don't like to compress it too much. We can also add gain, just like in a compressor, so whatever we take away, we could kind of bring it back. So I felt like I was missing some of the bass, so I might boost it a tiny bit, but you know, we've got to experiment, trial and error. Now I'm going to add a little bit of reverb to the overall track, and I'm going to use the built-in EQ to take away all the mud reverb in the lower area. The lower mids is already where the guitars are, and I don't want to, you know, clutter. Same for the highs, you know, there's a lot of lead guitars there anyway. So other controls in here I can explain, of course, is the type of reverb, like a room, a theater, just stuff it's replicating. The width is how far it's going to spread out, and I kind of want that to go out so I can fill in. This is the percentage of reverb, and we already have a reverb bus. There's almost no reason to have this. And these other controls I won't really need to work with. Cross mix is how much the dry and wet mix blend. We'll blend it a little so they have some sort of connection and it's not weird. Pre-delay would be like having the reverb come ahead. I'm not going to do that. I'll mess up. Early reflections is kind of the same deal. It's just the volume of the reverb coming in earlier. Decay times how long it'll stay. We want this part, some of the song to be tight. So I don't want to have this tremendously crazy sort of deal going on with a lot of reverb. Then we got low and high decay, just, you know, how long we leave the low frequency reverb and how long we leave the high frequency. Overall, we don't have to mess with a lot of this if we don't want to. Now, stereo imaging, as I explained with the rhythm guitar, is just, you know, how spread out we want to keep things. I like to keep the bass instruments and like the kick and snare and stuff centralized, and then slowly spread out some of the other things. So let's try that. Again, mixing is really a lot of just like thinking and listening. So let's go into the harmonic exciter, which is basically kind of like it takes the frequencies and sounds that are being played back, and it's gonna add like just a little bit of fizz. So I do it for like the bass guitar and stuff, for things that don't need to be very pure. And I use like the tape. This is just something that you can do. And this is the amount you want to fuzz, and this is how much of it's going to be actually in the mix. So let's go to a metal part. And then here's more of the guitars, so I'm going to do a lot less. The last step we have to do is basically use the limiter. And I'm using the wonderful FabFilter Pro L for this. You can use any limiter. And basically the controls for this will align with yours, hopefully. I'm basically making sure that the output will not be past negative 0.30 decibels. Now, if you don't understand how sound works, it's actually a logarithmic or like a exponential curve. As you get closer to the maximum, the changes are going to be more apparent. Or sorry, the reverse of that. So as you start quiet, each time you change your volumes, it gets a little bit bigger by bigger. So basically, as I'm gonna turn on this inter-sample protection so that we can avoid any glitches here, and I'm gonna turn it up to this scale. We can add oversampling so that the plugin works a little better. I'm just gonna have dithering on, which is another kind of complex algorithm. I don't understand a lot of this stuff, but it's just a commonly done process on mastering in CDs. Basically, we're gonna raise the gain until we have our volume hitting just around like this -6 point, which is -6 decibel or dBs. And that's around the standard listening. What you want to really do, honestly, is just listen. Compare it to a CD played back on your computer at the same volume or something that you want it to be as loud as. And you, of course, don't want it to clip. So I'm probably going to have to be careful with how I'm recording this next section. So you may not hear it as loud as it really is. And basically, once you've limited, just take a listen to the full thing and see how you like it. You might find that it's, sounding really good. You might find that your mastering messed something up because, you made too many EQ nodes like I did. Just think about it. Sit on it for a little while. If you're trying to do this, give yourself a deadline, of course, but get used to sort of your own formula. You'll find that a lot of these controls might look scary at first, and you may only need to use a couple. Or you might find that if you learn how to use them, you can make the better of them. This won't be the final version you hear on the album, most likely, because there will be tweaks and things I want to change. But hopefully I can make a video of this to release at the end of the week, just to kind of close up our tutorial here on making music and, showcase what you can do if you follow the steps that I've shown you guys. Again, there's a lot of things I left out, and you're more than welcome to ask me questions. Preferably, leave a comment if you have a question that you think might be relevant. I prefer not to have a million, how do I do this in a different DAW or software, or maybe more of the why don't you use Mixcraft questions or anything kind of like that. I've answered a lot of my questions in my Reaper tutorial, drum tutorial, and guitar tone tutorials. So if you guys have any other kind of questions, though, please do not hesitate to ask. Shoot me a message on facebook.com/swiggles1987 or find me on Twitter. I'm twitter.com/swigglesrp. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, I'm going to reiterate that there's an awesome challenge going on at the time of the release of this video, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys come up with. I'm really looking forward to how the song is turning out and how the video will be, but thanks so much for watching.